With the province-wide discussion of secession taking a hold of Albertans since the election, the question on many Canadians' minds remains, is it even possible? Since Premier Smith presented the possibility of a citizen-led petition in order to enact a referendum on such question, the discussion among those for and against separation have been asking what would the process look like and what would the consequences of moving forward with such a proposal mean for Albertans everywhere. BCN's Landon Hickok has more on what the logistics behind secession would look like.
Since Mark Carney's election win last week, a growing sentiment of those who are wanting to see Alberta secede from Canada have been becoming increasingly vocal. An Angus Reid poll that was published back in April said that if the Liberals were to secure government in the latest election, 3 in 10 Albertans would be in favor of a vote for Alberta to secede and become an independent nation. Frustrations from Albertans continue to rise over federal regulations that make it challenging to export natural resources from Alberta to broader markets. But according to an economist at the University of Alberta, it may be a bit more challenging to do so as an independent country.
The primary obstacle, I would say, is that Alberta has to contend with is that it's landlocked. So it would be surrounded by Canada to the north and to the east and west, and the United States to the south. This means that to reach global markets, it has to travel through these other places. And this could create all sorts of problems. So if you want to export oil, for example, it would have to drive it in trucks or send it through a pipeline in either through Canada or the United States. So essentially, Alberta would be subject to regulations for one or both of these countries in order for it to reach global markets. So this might, in a way influence Alberta's global sovereignty as an independent nation. Canada might treat Alberta differently compared to if it's a province. The question is, in terms of long-term viability, how long could the province continue with this model? So for example, the International Energy Agency predicts that global oil demand will reach its peak by 2030 and gradually decrease afterwards. This is just something to keep in mind. And here we're talking about the very long term, 25 years or more.
But to actually separate, the process would require more than just a favorable provincial-wide referendum. In 1999, the House of Commons passed Bill C-20, or the Clarity Act, amid the failed Quebec secession referendum of '95. It states that for a province to successfully separate, a referendum for its population must be held free of ambiguity and present a clear majority. This referendum will only begin the process of negotiations with the Canadian government and must establish an amendment to the Constitution of Canada that all other provinces and the federal government therefore must affirm. Treaty rights are an additional factor in which First Nations province-wide as of late have criticized the notion of separation as a violation of treaty rights. The Blackfoot Confederacy, in a letter criticizing Premier Daniel Smith, says that Bill 54, which would make it easier to establish the possibility of a secession referendum, would destabilize the foundational legal agreements upon which this province rests. The Premier promises that if a citizen-led petition with enough requisite votes requests a vote with the topic on separation, it will be put into next year's provincial referendum ballot. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.